So today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up video, and everyone knows that the month of February is shorter, so I feel like on book 2 we all really pressure ourselves to get the most reading done that we can, particularly in this month. And based on all the wrap-ups I've seen so far, people killed it in February, and I feel like I did a pretty good job myself. I read 9 books total, though some were graphic novels. Whatever, I don't care. Goodreads counts them, I count them, so yeah. Alright, so without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get into all these books. The first book that I picked up in February is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This was actually a rollover from my January TBR. This is an adult sci-fi novel, but it's a very different sort of sci-fi novel. It's not set in space. The entire plot isn't sci-fi driven. It's very like contemporary sci-fi, which is something that I'd never read before. The story follows the perspective of a student at Hailsham, which is this boarding school in the English countryside, but it's not your average boarding school. In fact, all these children are being bred for something very, very terrible and very dystopian sci-fi. So can't really say too much, but I can say that I really enjoyed this book. It took me like 30 pages to kind of really get into it. The writing and the style was, I don't know, it was first person, and it was just, it didn't pull me in immediately, but I knew that I just needed to keep going because this is a book that I've wanted to read for a long time, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars because I wasn't totally blown away by it, but it still had a really like profound effect on me, and I still think about it a lot. I still think about it a lot. So I really did end up enjoying this book as much as I could, because this is not the kind of book that you enjoy. It's not entertaining, but it is captivating, and yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. The second book that I picked up in February is another rollover from January, and it is I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This is an adult psychological horror, and it follows a female narrator who is going on a road trip to visit her boyfriend's parents. I'm not going to say anything more about this book because that's all I knew going into it, and I feel like that's all anyone should know. This book scared the hell out of me, and it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. The writing was phenomenal. It's a short book, so I did read it in one sitting, and I just cannot wait to read more from Ian Reid. It gave me this sense of dread as I was reading it, kind of like you get when you're watching a horror movie when you're waiting for something to pop up and scare the hell out of you. It was just so unique in that way, because I do read horror and like psychological thrillers, but I have never read one that got to me in the way that this one did. And if you can't already tell, I highly enjoyed this book. 5 out of 5 stars. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it on BookTube, but I really would like to get more people interested in this book and reading it. Like, this is my plea to you. Please pick up this book so we can talk about it, because it is worth talking about. The next book I picked up is a graphic novel. It's actually like the first issue of, I'm hoping, a series of graphic novels. And it is Jim Henson's Labyrinth by very, very many authors. If you're familiar with my channel, you are familiar with the fact that I'm a huge fan of Labyrinth, the 1987 Jim Henson movie starring David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. I just loved that movie so much. So when I heard that they were starting a graphic novel series, I was so excited about it. For those of you who don't know, Labyrinth follows a teenage girl who is babysitting her stepbrother one night, and she has just had enough. She feels very much like Cinderella, left home to keep the baby, to watch the house, and she wishes that the Goblin King would just take him away. So naturally, the Goblin King comes to collect. What follows in the film version of Labyrinth is Sarah going on this grand journey throughout the labyrinth to get to the Goblin Castle to rescue her baby brother. So this is sort of like a prequel of, from what I can tell, mostly Jareth's perspective, which I enjoy, because Jareth is the Goblin King. He is David Bowie, and therefore my favorite character. I do have to say that I was a bit disappointed with this first volume. I think I give it 3 stars because I just wanted something deeper, and I'm still clinging to the hope that I will get it in future issues, but right now I just kind of feel like it's more of the same. And though I do love the movie, I feel like the graphic novels are such a great opportunity for them to really get deep into the story and Jareth's background and just go there, you know what I mean? So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I will continue with this series because I'm just, again, clinging to the hope that it will get better. The next 2 books that I read are also graphic novels, and they are Paper Girls Volume 2 and Paper Girls Volume 3. This is a graphic novel series by Brian K. Vaughan, who wrote Saga. Now, because these are continuations in a series, I can't say virtually anything about them, but But I will tell you that this story follows a group of teenage girls who all share the same paper route, and it's set in the 1980s. One morning the girls are on their route and they come across creatures that they identify as aliens. It's very Steven Spielberg-y. Like, I feel like this could be a Steven Spielberg movie from the 80s. I really truly do. It's very, very entertaining. I gave both volumes 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up during February is The Retribution of Mara Dyer. This is a young adult psychological thriller, and it follows a young girl who has recently escaped a tragedy that left her boyfriend and 2 friends dead, and now she's having to deal with that aftermath. Though not just in the normal way that one would have to do that, she is starting to hear voices and see things and not completely trust herself or her memories of what happened that night. Again, this is the 3rd book, so I can't go into detail, but I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed parts of it, but overall I was wanting more from the conclusion, which this was supposed to be and was for many years before the next series, the Noah Shaw series, began. So with that in mind, knowing that there is more coming, I did feel like, okay, that's good. But the fact that this was supposed to be the conclusion for so many years just makes me like kind of bitter, to be honest with you. And that's why it just didn't get such a high rating for me. There were parts, again, that I loved, but overall that couldn't earn this book a 5-star rating for me. The next book that I picked up in February is another graphic novel, and it is Giant Days Volume 2. This is a graphic novel series that is more leaning towards the adult side, much like Paper Girls, and it follows a group of girls who are attending a university in England. They're all so quirky in their own ways and lovable and hilarious, and I just never anticipated that I would enjoy this series as much as I have. And despite the fact that graphic novels are expensive, I fully intend to own this entire series. There are several more volumes that I haven't picked up yet. Right now I'm just kind of taking it slowly. As much as I just want to speed through them, I'm also enjoying them so much. So maybe I will buy like a volume a month and just continue on from there. Really, really enjoyed it. I think I gave this a 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. Love it. The next book that I read in February is actually a novella, and it is Fracture Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is the novella between the 2nd and 3rd books in the Shatter Me series, and it is told from a character's perspective that I hate, and I just honestly hated it so much. I feel like Tahereh Mafi doesn't even enjoy this character. And I feel like she probably had not the best time writing it, because I certainly didn't have the best time reading it. The character is immature, petty, douchebaggy, and he's just meh. Nah. I gave this novella 2 out of 5 stars because that is how much I couldn't stand it. I even felt like the writing was very different, and that's why I said I don't necessarily think Tahereh Mafi enjoyed writing this. I don't know if that's true, but the writing was very different. And I get that it's told from a different perspective, but it just seemed to be really lacking. So that's why it gets a 2 out of 5 stars for me. The final book that I picked up in February is Ignite Me, also by Tahereh Mafi. And this is the 3rd, and it was the final book in the Shatter Me trilogy until March. Actually, now it is March as I am filming this. Anyway, I can't go into a lot of detail because this is the 3rd and final book, but if you guys don't know, which I'm sure you do, Shatter Me is a young adult dystopian series that follows a young girl named Juliet who has a lethal touch. This power that she possesses has put her away in an asylum until one day the reestablishment, the corrupt government in this dystopian world, takes her and plans to use her as a weapon. That is, of course, until she starts to fight back. Looking back, I gave this a 4-star when I first read it in 2014. And 4 years later, I gave it the same rating. I enjoyed a lot of the parts. Mostly the banter and interactions between characters is just fantastic, but the ending was very lackluster. It was like you were expecting this explosive finale, and it was just like, oh, there's the bad guy. Okay. Bam. It was just so anticlimactic, and I wanted so much more from it. And again, from the very start of this series, I knew that it wasn't gonna be amazing with the world building. It's about the characters, not necessarily about the plot. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes it's like, okay, come on, give me a little something more. So that's why I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. In the comments below, I would love for you guys to let me know what you read during the month of February. I'd also love to know if you have read any of these books, and if you did, what you thought of them, if you liked them, if you maybe didn't like them so much, all of those things that you know, I wanna know. All right guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.